For many people today, Atia of the Julii is first encountered not in a history book, but on a screen, in HBO's Rome. She strides through candlelit hall like a storm wrapped in silk, sharp-tongued, commanding, fierce in her affections, terrible in her anger. She is a woman who negotiates with generals, threatens senators, arranges marriages like battle formations. There is an intensity in her, something dangerously alive. She feels like someone who could change the fate of Rome by force of will. But when we step away from the screen, away from the drama and fire of the portrayal, we find a very different kind of presence in ancient record. Not absent, but quiet. A presence that is felt rather than spoken. Atia Balba Cesonia was born into the Julian line, a family whose ancestry traced its mythic roots to Aeneas and through him to Venus Genetrix, the mother goddess of Rome's destiny. This lineage was less a romantic inheritance than a burden of expectation. A reminder that every gesture, every word, every alliance must protect the dignity of the house. Rome did not allow its noble women to exist in public political life, yet they were expected to be the moral pillars upon which the public image of the family was built. Her mother, Julia, was the sister of Julius Caesar, so Atia grew up in proximity to ambition, reputation, and the slow gathering of power. But if Caesar was thunder, Atia's world was composed of quieter sounds. The measured rhythm of household ritual, the careful selection of tutors, the maintenance of kinship ties, the unspoken knowledge that a misstep could stain not just oneself, but one's ancestors. She married Gaius Octavius, a disciplined and accomplished statesman from Velitrae. Respected, serious, not a man of spectacle, but of steady advancement. Their household was not one of decadence, but of order. It is within this environment that she gave birth to Gaius Octavius Turinus, the boy who would become Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. Ancient historians do not tell us what Atia said, but they give us the effect of her words. And those effects are unmistakable. Suetonius tells us Atia raised Octavian to wake up early before dawn, to speak only when he had something measured to say, to study with seriousness rather than flair, to avoid indulgence, excess, and noise. When Octavius died, Atia became a widow with 2 children. She remarried Lucius Marcius Philippus, a calm, respected figure, another man of quiet authority. And it is here, in these years of widowhood and remarriage, that her influence takes a deeper texture. She gave Augustus the thing that would come to define his political life, the ability to endure, to wait, to watch without revealing the full depths of his ambition. There is even a story recorded by Suetonius that Atia was sleeping in the temple of Apollo when a serpent visited her in a dream. From that union came a child touched by destiny. Whether omen, myths, of political afterthought, it reflects how later Romans understood her role. Augustus is unimaginable without Atia. But her influence was interior, not public, quiet, not theatrical. So Atia cared deeply about how she was perceived, in a different way from the Atia of HBO's Rome. She wanted to be the perfect woman in a certain sense, and transmitted this idea to Augustus. The first emperor, after all, was extremely careful in handling his own perception, his own character, and the character of those around him, especially women. In a certain sense, Atia is the mold for the future perfect woman of Rome. So, historically, there is no evidence that Atia played this kind of public role like in the series. In fact, the sources make her almost a symbol of the opposite, model of restraint, dignity, and quiet presence. Now, what about her love story with Mark Antony? In the series, their love is tempestuous, theatrical, destructive. Historically, there is no record of such an affair. None. The 2 families knew each other, certainly, but there is no evidence of romance, alliance, or scandal between them. Sadly, Atia died early. She died in 43 BC, just a year after Caesar's assassination, and before the Roman world reshaped itself into something unrecognizable. She never saw the Second Triumvirate. She never saw the long, slow death of the Republic. She never saw Actium, Cleopatra's fall, or the Senate hailing her son as Augustus. She did not live to see what she had shaped. And yet, the echoes of her presence remained. Not in monuments or speeches, but in the character of the man who would become Rome's first emperor. When Suetonius describes Augustus later in life, his restraint, his careful public image, his ability to weigh, to calculate, to avoid the theatrical excesses that destroyed so many of his rivals, those traits do not come from Caesar. Caesar was brilliance and risk-taking, lightning in a bottle. Augustus was control. Control is learned. Tacitus, centuries later, looks back on Atia not as a political operator but as a symbol of older Roman womanhood. He contrasts her with Livia, the powerful and politically visible wife of Augustus. Livia, after all, was accused in ancient gossip of ambition, of maneuvering to influence state affairs. Atia, in contrast, is remembered as the matron who embodies gravitas, the Roman virtue of carrying one's dignity like a garment that must never wrinkle. Suetonius tells us that after her death, Augustus spoke of her often. He kept her memory near him. So, two very different characters, the real Atia, the historical Atia, at least the Atia of the sources, and the one in HBO Rome, but the one in HBO Rome is there for a reason. After all, Roman women were very powerful when they wanted to be. They were just powerful in a very controlled and silent way. Atia makes it explicit in HBO Rome. She gives a voice to the silent power that historically always existed.